Overnight, Dunkin's Pumpkin Spice Coffee has sent folks into a cozy craze. I'm Lauren LaTulip reporting live from home in my hand-knit turtleneck that my Nana made me. Cinnamony.
The home with Dunkin' is where you want to be.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Storms are brewing. Crocs Echo Storm, that is. It's their most striking sneaker that is the perfect blend of form and function. From a sink-in soft feel to a seamless slip-on design, the Storm will help you build your streetwear style while supporting you wherever the day takes you. Plus, there are brand new colorways you won't want to miss. Shop Crocs Echo Storm on crocs.com today.
Hey guys, it's producer Matt. So good news, bad news. The good news is that Erik is writing up a storm to try to meet his deadline, which means that all of y'all helped out so much buying copies of all of his other books that there's a fourth Erik J. Brown book coming up very, very soon. The bad news is recording became really difficult because of him trying to meet the deadline. So to celebrate Erik's upcoming fourth book, fingers crossed that we'll get to know more information on what the book's about, when it's going to come out, all of that good stuff. Let's go to a flashback to when Erik was on the Geekscape main show to promote his first book, All That's Left in the World. Enjoy.
Hey, what's up, Geekscapists? Welcome to a brand new episode of Geekscape. I'm your host, Jonathan London. And if this is your first Geekscape, well, we like to talk movies, video games, comic books, TV. Some writing is coming up on this episode. We're going to be talking to young adult author Erik J. Brown. He's got a brand new book coming up, and it's available early next year, but you can pre-order it right now. It's called All That's Left in the World. We'll be talking about that, writing young adult fiction in general. Tons of stuff. Katie will be joining me here in a bit. But I got to say, I would really love it if y'all took the time right now to hit the share button on this podcast, whether you're listening to it or watching it on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. And I don't know, just share it with your friends. If you don't like Geekscape, I don't know why you're here, but share it with your enemies. I really don't care who you share it with. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or maybe Google Play, is that a thing? Write a review. It really helps our visibility out. And, you know, we've been doing this for 15 years. We celebrated episode 600 a week or so ago. It's just been nuts. And I do love y'all so much for listening to the show for this long, those of you who have. And also, before I logged in to do the show today, I saw on Instagram our very own good friend in Long Island, Big Yanks, had donated blood for the first time in his life as part of our Geekscape Gives initiative. We're trying to get you all out there to donate blood in memory of our Geekscapist that we lost, Chris Ellis. And you know what? We couldn't save Chris, but we can save a lot of people by going out there and donating blood. So it's real easy. Just find your nearest blood bank, maybe the Red Cross. AABB.org is a great resource here in the United States. They can find a blood bank near you. And then just go and donate. You can donate blood. You can donate platelets. It's all needed because COVID definitely ravaged the blood supply here in the United States and around the world. So wherever you are, go donate blood. It's really going to help out. And that's what we're doing right now. So it really made me feel great to see that Big Yank, somebody who had never donated before, was donating blood in Chris's name. That was huge. And I will get emotional if I talk about it too much. So we should carry on with the show. Another thing that I got emotional about, I gotta tell Katie about this, so I'll bring her in here in a bit. But I gotta warn her. You all know Katie's dating this amazing human being named Mark. And Mark, if you remember when he was on the show, Mark is a very, very big G.I. Joe fan. And I just think that it is important, responsibility-wise, for me to make sure that Mark does not go see the theatrical film Snake Eyes. And you know what? I don't like knocking movies on this show, but I got to tell you, this movie was it was tough, and I know that Mark is a huge Snake Eyes fan, and I almost invited Katie and Mark to the movies to see this. Because you know me, I like these Hollywood films, and I like the action movies, and I don't care how silly or dumb they are. Usually I just like going to the movies and having a good time. That didn't happen with the Snake Eyes. So let's bring Katie in here. And
oh no,
Katie, you know, it takes a lot for a movie for me to
we're not expecting like amazingness. Like, we're not expecting Oscar worthy. We're not expecting Marvel, but like, it was that bad. Like, don't even watch it. I mean, look, we understood watching the trailer. It was like, okay, yeah, sure, like it's gonna be something, but like maybe not.
Okay, so Katie, I like G.I. Joe.
Is it Mortal Kombat level?
Yes, I will say that. I will say that Snake Eyes is comparable to the most recent Warner Brothers attempt at relaunching the Mortal Kombat franchise. I got to tell you, if you're going to watch like 80s toys being reenacted and like revamped, I think that Masters of the Universe series that came out on Netflix is fantastic.
It's dope. I'm very excited.
It's so much fun to watch. I think the writing clips, it's got tons of character. I really, really loved that Masters of the Universe.
Kevin Smith. Why not? Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, congrats to Kevin as of the recording of this today. Kevin, Kevin is now I think 51 years old, and he's started shooting Clerks 3 today. So congratulations, Kevin. You came on the podcast years ago to promote Clerks 2. So maybe you'll come back on to promote Clerks 3. So
when I was working at Machinima, he told us the story of Clerks 1 and like how he had the script in the back of his trunk for one of his cars, and like it got broken into and everything got stolen but his like notes for Clerks 1. Is a whole thing. Anyway,
so let's talk the Snake Eyes. All right, because this movie
is it that bad?
Yes, and here's the thing, because I don't like knocking our artists and filmmakers, and I think Henry Golding is a effing star. I think he's amazing. I have seen him in things I didn't like, but I loved him, and so I think I will just watch. I would watch that guy chew. I would watch that guy like chew a cardboard box for an hour and pay for it. Like I think he's just charismatic and fantastic.
Your Pornhub searches, that's fine.
It's all good. I think he's amazing. Okay. This movie is flawed from the very beginning. It establishes they want to start a new G.I. Joe universe over there with Hasbro and Paramount and
Mattel. Yeah.
Maybe the way to do that is not hiring the dude who made R.I.P.D. over at Universal. But they did, and it's okay. I don't know how many writers were responsible for this, but the very first scene is a father-son scene where, you know, the father is like walking with the young Snake Eyes, and, you know, the young Snake Eyes and he are walking through the woods.
Tell me he's in a helmet too.
No. This is some Lifetime original stuff that's going on here, and they're in like a safe house out in the woods. And I thought that it would be like Eric Bana in like Hannah, the Joe Wright movie, where he trains his daughter Saoirse Ronan to be like a young ninja. Do you remember the movie Hannah?
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be like this. Like, this guy's gonna train young Snake Eyes, and then obviously he's gonna get killed off by somebody from his past.
Because that's the way of the wisdom figure. You know, like you
gotta
have
pass
to.
It on. Yeah, there is no training of the Snake Eyes. There is killing of the dad, and by villains
it's Bambi-esque. You know, you have to have something to strive for.
No. the Snake Eyes in this movie wants to find the people responsible for his dad. He allows himself to become almost 30 years old before really pursuing it. But in the first scene, you've got the dad.
I gotta live
Katie,
my life.
Please. We have got. I'm not going to get through this if you keep interrupting me. This is hard for me. He takes his son when he knows that they've been compromised, and he hides him in a back room and is like, "Don't come out, no matter what." The kid's going to come out, by the way. As the bad guys are about to kill the dad, who you find out later was like a G.I. Joe operative in hiding. I'll go ahead and spoil this movie. They see the little kid witness the murder, and the little kid jumps out a window and escapes. And the bad guy goes to the boss and is like, "Kid got away." That was it. The little Snake Eyes got away from these bad guys with guns and vehicles. And this little bastard jumps out a window and runs away, and he gets away from these paramilitary bad guy figures. And then you fast forward to Henry Golding in these underground tournaments fighting later on. And I guess at that point, he's not that good of a fighter, but you never see him train with ninjas. And some guy shows up and says, basically something along the lines of, "If you do work for me, I'll find the man responsible for killing your dad." And I'm like, well, glad you showed up and handed that to him, because that dude wasn't going to do it. Like, he was just not doing anything. And throughout the movie, he just gets handed everything. And, people are upset because Snake Eyes is supposed to be mute and Snake Eyes is supposed to be blind, I guess. At no point in this movie did you have the father training the young Snake Eyes so he could have later Snake Eyes abilities. Okay. You had no point where, maybe it was like the kid had witnessed such a horrific murder of his father which wasn't that horrific. Did just get shot. But,
I need it to be said. I love how much you're so angry about this that you're like, Katie, shut the fuck up, Katie. I need to keep going. Katie, and you're like,
Katie. So Katie. At no point does he take a vow of silence. At no point do he never goes mute in this movie.
Because
he talks
he's
to the whole movie.
He's the main character. You can't make him go mute.
Yes, you can. I watched Pig with Nicolas Cage. Dude says 5 lines in the entire movie, and it's fantastic, and it's really good. You could absolutely have characters who are mute or say very little and make them engaging characters. But guess what? You're actually going to have to write something good in order to convey emotion.
That's true.
It's you can actually have mute characters. It's not a problem. I think a Snake Eyes movie could have been done really well with a mute character.
Do you think that there could be a really good Zelda movie with a Link mute character? Yes. Okay.
It would be an animated movie. We would give it to Hayao Miyazaki to do. And Studio Ghibli would knock that silent, no talking Link Zelda movie would be amazing. Out of the fucking park. Don't play with me. I had a better... Listen, I live...
London.
I live a 5-minute drive from this movie theater. I had a better Snake Eyes movie in my head by the time I pulled into the garage. It is just, this is not that movie, G.I. Joe fans. This is not it. This movie, he lets the bad guys get away. He's got mixed
Here's
goals.
How I know you're not connected to anybody in this movie, because you're telling your actual opinion. I think
Henry Golding's great, and I think the dude from The Raid who's in this movie and not used very well is great.
Wait, who?
You ever watch The Raid, where they take the tower and whip some ass? It's like an Indonesian movie. The main dude in that is fantastic. He's in this. They don't use him. There's a scene where the Snake Eyes gets dropped in a pit, and these massive snakes come out of nowhere, and
Snake Eyes.
No, he has to pass a test where these giant pythons circle around him, and I don't know who puts the giant pythons back after they've been released in the pit, but I guess they go back because they're just you have to touch this slab, and then these things open up and the snakes come out. But I don't know how the snakes go back in. There's no Rancor keeper from the damn snakes. Nothing. Katie, what I'm telling you is this movie is nonsensical. Remember the infinite runway in Fast 6 or so, where they're just taxiing. They're flying. They're on a runway. They're fighting on a jet. They're trying to keep it from taking off, and there's a 20-minute sequence on a runway, and I'm like, this runway must have gone from Paris to freaking London, because they're on this runway for a long time. there's a highway chase at the end of this movie, The Snake Eyes, and they jump onto a vehicle transport. And there's ninjas jumping all over this highway, jumping on this vehicle transport. At no point does the guy driving this vehicle transport or any of the cars around it stop and go, oh shit, ninjas, I should stop the damn car and pull over. They just like keep driving. You would think that ninjas...
That's what you have to do when you're in the movie speed.
I was thinking that this dude driving the transport, having ninjas like on his car, they're literally cutting cars off of this transport to try and kill each other. And this dude's like, you know what? If this shit ain't in the lot by 6 a.m., I don't get paid. I don't get paid. So like, I just, keep on trucking. Let's stop the car, pull it over. There are ninjas fighting on the back of your truck. Stop the truck, stop the truck. Stop the truck. Why are there ninjas fighting on the back of your truck? And you just don't care. You just keep driving. This movie has so many nonsensical scenes. I can't with
I feel
the
like
Snake Eyes.
Your annoyance with this feels similar to a different...
what a grown-up would feel watching this movie?
To a certain comedian who I adore and loves movie that I wrote to you. I wrote a text to you and I was like, this movie got made. You need to keep writing, please, because this movie got made. I don't think you know exactly who I'm talking about, but
I don't have the most, I'm not like G.I. Joe's great. I think it's fun. I don't think it takes a lot to write a good G.I. Joe movie. And I think a Snake Eyes movie, the challenge there is don't let the studio make him talk. Figure out how to tell just figure it out. The character is the character. Part of the mystique is the Mandalorian spoke so minimally.
True. And it was a totally different actor.
It was fantastic. So my challenge to you, Katie, when you say, I don't know if you can make a feature film when the dude doesn't talk, the Mandalorian would have done it pretty damn well. He would have said 7 lines and then Baby Yoda would have gurgled and you would have been like, this movie's great.
Here's the thing.
This can be done.
When and it's such a thing with we've got a renaissance of video games becoming movies. And when we have characters that mostly do not speak because they are you, they're essentially you personified. It's your actions, it's your work, you're moving the plot line along. That is a hard thing to do in terms of an actual movie. And to have an actual character who is visually, audibly, and physically just being the main point, that's a hard thing to communicate as a video game does, where you can go through that without being mute. When you're in a medium where you truly aren't the character that's creating all these differences, where that character is supposed to be mute because it's basically you making the dialogue, making the decisions, making the whole thing happen. It's a hard thing to commit to.
Okay, so don't pay them. Because honestly, if they're going to collect the paycheck, if you're going to collect the paycheck and be the guy who writes the Snake Eyes, the character's mute, and I know you hire Henry Golding, you want Henry Golding to talk. It probably shouldn't be Henry Golding. The guy's phenomenal. Again, I will watch him eat cardboard and I will be like, this guy's the greatest. This guy's fantastic. He's so charismatic. I love the emotion he shows eating cardboard. But that's not this gig. This gig is the Mandalorian, and this gig is minimalist and I think there can be an artistry to that. And I think that you can make a really great minimalist movie. Case in point, not a movie I entirely loved, and I will try and keep this short, and we'll get our good friend Erik in on the show to talk about his book. But
poor Erik is just sitting here.
No, he needs to know this. He needs to know. He was probably like, thinking about going with my husband to go watch the Snake Eyes. No, you are not, sir. You do not do that.
Listen,
okay?
we waited because we're
do not go and see the Snake Eyes. I went to see this other movie that is similarly minimal, but it's very artistic. And I got to tell you, I appreciated this movie. I didn't necessarily love this movie. And it's a shame because I'm talking about The Green Knight, which I was really looking forward to.
I was curious about this. I know I've seen yours and Heidi's post about this. And I the story of this is fascinating to me.
Yep.
not quite the thing that you wanted it to be, though, it seems like.
No, I was very hyped for this movie. I appreciate A24. My favorite A24 movie, though, is not in this style. It's Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler. Yeah. I think Uncut Gems is a freaking masterpiece. I think A24 is awesome. Wow. But they're horror movies with the witch and all that stuff. Like, I feel like it's imagery and sound design and fantastic performances with not a like. To me, you can't convince me that this stuff is okay. I'm just going to quote Steven Soderbergh. Confusing people doesn't make you an artist.
No.
Like, these movies have minimal like story, and I think a lot of it you lay in these images and you lay in the sound design and you stay with these characters, and that's fine for like moody horror stuff. I don't enjoy those things. I need a little bit more story, I need a little more progression. And so I thought that I was going to get that with The Green Knight, which, you know, based on the old tale and the poem, it has progression, and I was going to see how they elaborate on it. They elaborate here in some amazingly visual ways. Dev Patel is amazing. Later on, you have Joel. He's incredible. You have Joel Edgerton in the movie, and Alicia Vikander. Like, you have these amazing actors in this movie. Every shot of this movie is beautiful. The story and the plot just not my bag.
It's a hard story to tell, to be fair. It's a very hard story to tell.
I think that in this, I think there is a, I think sadly, okay, this is a tough movie to make, and I appreciate this movie 100%. I didn't necessarily enjoy watching it, even though I appreciated every moment of it. It is like you said, is a hard story to tell, because if you start to just turn it back towards convention and you tell it like they did maybe Dragon Slayer in the 80s, or, you know, a typical, you're going to go see a fantasy film or a Knights or Arthurian legend film. Those things are very high concept, plot driven. And this movie is more contemplative and more, it takes its time asking questions about honor and destiny and time. And I don't know if I needed to sit in those things. It's very ponderous, and it took the air out of it for me. I think I wanted something a little more balanced towards a traditional narrative, but that would have cheapened what they were going for with the artistry. And it was a tough mix for me, and I don't know if I dug it, but I appreciated everything. I have to
say that this is a very refreshing view from you, because you're very much a fan of things. And to see, you truly do love things. And to see you like so opinionated about these things is kind of refreshing. I'm not gonna lie.
I want everybody to succeed. I want the guys who do Snake Eyes. I want the Snake Eyes to be a fun movie. I can't wait to watch the Suicide Squad. And I got to tell you, in the chat, Bold T is like, Jonathan's wearing his hater pants today. It all comes out of love, man. I want to see a great Snake Eyes movie for March.
You came out swinging.
Big Yank says, No Sudden Move was cool. Yeah, that's the new Soderbergh that's up on HBO Max. I think you got to watch that No Sudden Moves. It's really a slow burn noir, but he uses wide angle lenses in a very extreme way. So everything looks like crazy distorted, but I loved it. And he's got great performances. Don Cheadle, Benicio del Toro, everybody that's great. David Harbour. But
fucking love David Harbour. Oh, that guy.
I love stories, Katie.
I know you do.
And sometimes
and it's funny because
sometimes stories just aren't made the way that they work for me, and that's okay. Go enjoy Green Knight. It's very ponderous.
All right, fair enough.
But it's beautiful. But it's made. I think
London not approved.
No, I mean honestly, like I found out that Stillwater came out with Matt Damon, and I chose this over that, and I was like, oh damn, that was the director who did what was this, the Michael Keaton movie about the newspaper a few years ago?
Oh, with Melissa McCarthy? No,
with what was what Erik probably knows it. No, about the Catholic Church investigation movie about the story.
I don't remember the name of it, but yes, no, I know what you're talking about.
It won a couple of Oscars. Spotlight. Big Yanks just saved me in the chat.
Yep,
Spotlight. This is the same director as Spotlight. I'm going to go watch this is what I'm going to do. Sadly, I'm a dummy. Like Jungle Cruise, I think would have satisfied me this weekend. I'm not a tough person. It's going to
be a lot of fun.
I'm not a tough person to entertain. I think I could have watched Jungle Cruise and enjoyed it. I think I could have definitely watched the Spotlight director doing Stillwater and Matt Damon's performance and enjoyed it, even though Matt Damon said some problematic things up until recently.
Yeah,
I guess his teen daughters had to convince him to stop using the F word for homosexuals. It's like, you're late to the party.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, let's think about our oldest relative and how disconnected
he's not Matt Damon.
And that they're not Matt Damon. But at the same time, like, there's gonna be a point. And here's the fun, weird thing. London, at some point, there is gonna be a point where you are very disconnected from the current culture.
It's not now?
No, but it's getting there. You're getting there. No, but like it's like, have you ever thought about the fact that like at one point you're going to be so disconnected from culture that people are going to be like, oh, how offensive are you going to be today? Like, have you ever thought about that?
Katie, I think those were the early days of Geekscape.
Okay.
But the ridicule has kind of set the parameters for me. You know what I mean? Matt Kelly says, Jonathan spent 25 minutes telling us how a mute character can be used for compelling storytelling. That's right, Matt. I did. That
is true, though.
And in professional fashion, hold on, Katie. Right. In professional fashion, Katie's in the interrupt train today. In professional train,
shut the Katie up.
Well, I mean, it's just mid-sentence. It's just the way that it flows as you wait for the person to stop talking. I was going to say, in non-Matt Kelly fashion, I was going to introduce our guest by saying the name of his book, which Matt didn't do on Horror Movie Night.
25 minutes in. Let's do this.
All right. Our guest is Erik J. Brown. He's got a brand new book coming out early next year called All That's Left in the World. You can actually pre-order it anywhere you pick up books, but let's just have Erik on because I'm sorry. You guys are all right. I spent 25 minutes hating on stuff, and I got to get some love in here. All right.
That's actually a perfect segue from a book because nobody talks at all in the entire book. It's just silent characters the whole time.
Don't play Erik J. Brown.
Just blank pages.
Erik J. Brown, author of All That's Left in the World, available early next year. I'm just gonna keep saying that because I heard you were recently on Horror Movie Night and you went through the entire hour before they were like, "Oh, we should mention the name."
It was
of your
only
book.
20 minutes.
Oh.
Amazing.
You could have fit my entire diatribe. You could have fit that into my entire diatribe about Snake Eyes.
And I did say at the end, finally, after Matt told me to.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, so Erik, you're friends of Matt. Anyway, I know we josh about Matt here on the show. We love Matt dearly. How did you become friends with Matt besides just being a Philly guy?
So we basically grew up together. We went to the same high school, but we also had the same after-school job at an old folks home. So a retirement community. Mm-hmm. We were all basically servers at a retirement community, and it was a weird kind of group of people where we all just kind of became friends just because we worked there. And it's one of those things where you maybe kind of cross paths in school, but you see each other all the time after school at work. So
Erik, what you're telling me is in high school, Matt was there, but you didn't actually befriend him until it was either him or having to listen to a bunch of old people.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, that was it.
You're like, I can talk to them. I can talk to this guy who just loves pro wrestling and pop punk.
And he's also a punk fan himself.
Yeah, Erik, did you actually witness Matt's band play? Because we played some of those tracks here on the show.
I have been to a few of those shows, actually.
Did you have a favorite song?
No, I can't remember the one off the top of my head. Don't put me on the spot.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I love you, Matt.
Okay, but that's amazing, though. I love that you were there for that moment and for that genesis of that band.
How much did you make selling tomatoes at that show?
Oh, Matt Kelly. I'm so sorry.
So, Eric, this author thing, when did you first want to be an author? Because you got this book coming out, and I know that you went to school at Temple for creative...
For film, yeah.
For film. But why not film? Why not do the film thing? You could have directed The Snake Eyes, and we wouldn't have even been in this mess.
Well, my character would have been quiet the whole time. He would have said one word at the end, and that was it.
Ooh, what would he have said? What's the one thing he'd say?
Fuck. That's it. That's the one fuck you get in a PG-13.
He's like,
looks at something. Ooh, it'll be, so the guy pulls over and there's all the ninjas getting on the thing and he fights all them off. And then like whatever happens. And then he turns around and sees a whole bunch of ninjas coming out of nowhere. And he goes, fuck. And then cut to black. Cut to directed by Erik J. Brown.
So
and
Eric,
it's like maybe he'll return in like number 2. Okay, got it.
There ain't going to be no number 2 of the Snake Eyes. The most accurate part of your summation was a whole bunch of stuff happens, which is, it's almost as if you saw the movie. I mean, Eric.
I was going to check it out on Paramount Plus whenever it came out there because it's Paramount. So
they may have to start a new streaming service called Negative. I'm sorry. I am sorry.
You are coming out swinging tonight.
I'm sorry. It is rare that I feel the dark side of the force this strongly, Katie, but it put me in a bad mood. I quipped at you. I even cut you from the feed for a stretch. Like, I'm not in a good mood with the Snake Eyes. I thought the Green Knight would make it better, and it just made me ponder my own mortality.
I have beef with A24 movies, though, because I don't trust them.
Okay, talk to me about this, because I think I'm with you on this A24 stuff. The horror movie night kids like Matt, they like it, but as you can tell from his music, he's not too discernible on the craft. Tell me about this A24 stuff.
So my issue with them is it's always, they seem to be marketing a movie more than they're actually making a movie. So
sure.
I like some of the horror movies I liked Hereditary and even Midsommar, but for the most part, I didn't watch The Lighthouse because it just seemed like it was one of those movies it's supposed to be a horror, but then when you go and you see it, it's actually not scary at all. And then maybe like something horrific happens at some point. Because I saw it's a pandemic movie. It was It Comes at Night, I think. Mm-hmm. And they advertise it to be something it's not at all. Mm-hmm. So if I had gone in knowing it was about some flu that wipes out the world, I'm a fan of things like that.
Yeah.
But they didn't. It made it look like some like monster movie or something. So then when I started watching it, I'm like, what is this movie about?
Well, the Lighthouse is still one that I'm sorry. Lighthouse is one that I still want to see, but I think you just go in knowing their performances will be good, but it's like hipster horror-y too much. Yeah. And it's just, okay, well, if you want to see a bunch of like really nice visuals with some like basically the sound design of like nails getting stretched across something, like, okay, they like that. They like the nails getting stretched across things, and they like the ticking clock sound. They like that stuff. And then you just put like an image of like a close-up of a goat eye at like every 2 minutes, and I think you got yourself a good movie.
That was The Witch then.
The Vivitch, or as I call it, Burning Man Origins, because that's what when it ended, I was like, "Well, okay, that's a thing." Okay, so tell us a little bit, Eric, about this book. You hinted at at the plot of All That's Left in the World, but like, what's it actually about?
So it's about 2 kids who happen to survive a viral apocalypse. It's basically a flu that wipes out most of the population, and these 2 kind of one of the characters, Andrew, he's injured and kind of finds this house in the middle of nowhere, breaks in to kind of heal himself and kind of wrap everything up, and realizes there's somebody else there, and the 2 of them have a relationship, and then it's just about them trying to survive in this new world. And it's also a love story, so they're falling in love as well. So
the young adult stuff, and I haven't read this stuff. I mean, young YA it seemed like it exploded kind of around Harry Potter. Would you agree? Because by that point I was in college, and I don't remember young adult being, when I was in middle school or a young adult was being aimed at me, I don't remember it really being a massive juggernaut of a book genre.
Yeah, with Harry Potter, that started younger, so that was more like the age category before this that slowly evolved into this new thing. And I think the big YA explosion was around Twilight and the Hunger Games.
Okay.
And that was when everything, because like they started, like publishing houses started buying things left and right with anything with vampires, anything that looks dystopian. And then like there was this oversaturation of that at the time. And hopefully there's not anymore because mine's like still kind of post-apocalyptic. So.
But you wouldn't describe your book as dystopian. You would describe it as barren. The world is kind of barren with some like bad actors in it.
Yeah. And I think it's more, there's like little tiny dystopian elements to it because there is society somewhere. It's just like people are kind of starting to get back on their feet after this pandemic hits and destroys everything. It's just like civilization's gone.
But you were writing this before we entered a pandemic. I mean, I don't know. I don't write books, but they seem like they take a long time.
And actually, my book sold on March 13th, 2020, which
Wow.
The Ready to Go Bear game was March 12th.
it was the first day that my publisher was closing in New York, and basically, like, I don't even think their office has been open since. So,
wow.
And I wrote the first draft of it in 2015.
Okay.
And it was rough. So I just kind of, there was something up with like the last half of it. I just didn't know what was wrong with it. It took a while to get there. And then I signed with my agent with this book in 2019. And we just did a little bit of work on it. And I think towards the end of 2019, he was like, all right, let's go out on submission. Probably in like February, we'll do one more pass over like the holidays, send it to me in the beginning of next year, and then we'll go out on submission. And I think we went out on submission February 22nd, maybe, and it sold on March 13th.
Incredible.
So it was
and
like...
You created, so you caused this whole thing.
Basically.
I don't know. I mean, he seems to have, like, things line up, you know, like, let me hold on. Like, my friend QAnon, he said that these things, they seem to line up.
No.
You think it's a listen, I did some research on YouTube, Katie, I did my YouTube research. You should try doing some. I did my research, and it sounds like these dates all line up. And I don't know.
I have to say, on
I think he and Fauci,
page 141,
yes,
the letter Q is on this page. So,
did you hear what he just said? Did you hear what he just said, Eric J. Brown?
Oh my God!
You know what he's
a Q in queer, which it's a queer book.
Do you see how it all lines up?
Okay, I'm seeing the planets align. Everything, it's all happening right now, you guys.
Well, in all honesty, and I am joking, folks.
What?
I know. Well, you know, so here's the thing. You say that, I have to say that I'm joking now, and I hate having to do that, but
it is insane.
Somebody was just telling me that people don't know giraffes exist.
Wait, what?
And that was literally a joke in my short film, Gay by Dawn, making fun of homophobes, was that these people were like, what the hell's a giraffe? Like, it's a joke that these people wouldn't know that giraffes exist. And then I heard today that some people honestly are doubting that giraffes exist. So I have to tell people, oh, I'm joking, or else they might be like, oh, that Eric J. Brown, he's been hanging out with Fauci.
They're going to clip the part that you don't want.
Oh, no.
Great. My career's canceled. Thank you.
I should be like Snake Eyes and just not, I should be like Snake Eyes and just not say shit. Damn it!
But you can't because that's a human life, and you're just going to say things, and people are going to clip it the way they're going to clip it.
Invest in education. If you're hearing anything Geekscape is, invest in education. So Eric, talk to me about how this came about. Because did you write this? What was the impetus for this? The inspiration for this? Was it the pandemic storyline, the loneliness? Was it the queer storyline as a love story? What parts inspired what? What was, was the queer storyline lead to a theme of loneliness that lent itself to a pandemic storyline? Or did the pandemic storyline be something, was that a world you wanted to write about that lent itself to loneliness, lent itself to a queer love story?
So I was, at the time I was watching The Walking Dead, and it was 2015. So they didn't have any queer characters at the time. And I know they've changed that since, but I just kept watching it and I was like, where are all the gay people? Like, where why are all of these people cripplingly straight? Like, why is this? Because I think that queer people, we would survive the apocalypse because we're very adaptable. I mean, and also the world's been trying to kill us for how long now? So I think we're fine.
The phrase cripplingly straight is the next book you need to write. I love that so much. And it's like, listen, our next set of superheroes needs to be everybody on the spectrum and like not the cripplingly straight.
The Walking Dead, everyone is cripplingly straight.
I fucking love that.
That's amazing. Much. But you're right, y'all. I mean, like, not to make things too overly serious, but like there is a plague analogy here that is synonymous with the stuff that was going on in the 80s. And like, if anybody's going to be vigilant against an infection, it's probably the gays, as my mother would say them, the gays. She's from Mexico.
So, I mean, that's where it started. And also I wanted to I didn't want it to be zombies because obviously by The Walking Dead, it was already played out by that point. So I was like, well, what kind of post-apocalyptic thing could happen? And I just figured a pandemic would be terrible. So I was right.
And it's too real, Roy. It's too real.
Now I wish it was just aliens. I should have done that.
Either way.
So the pandemic post-human or post-society kind of storyline was the one that you put yourself in, but immediately upon seeing the overly hetero Walking Dead, you were like, nah, come on, like let's put some gays in this. And but then why YA?
So that's the other thing I wanted to kind of focus on. One of the characters from the beginning is he's gay, and the other thing I was thinking about was we're already a minority. Queer people are already minorities. So if half of the world is wiped out, even more than half of the world is wiped out, we're even more so. So it's like, what happens with queer people who are basically feel like they're the only ones left on the earth? And then there's also people who just haven't even discovered their sexuality yet. So the other character, Jamie, he kind of starts to fall for this guy, but he has never experienced that before. He's never been able to. So I wanted to kind of have the apocalypse be a good way of kind of letting him go through all of these emotions and figure out his sexuality.
They're growing up in this,
with doing that for a young adult audience, I think just made more sense. It was just because you're trying to figure out your life, and now there's this apocalypse that happens, and there's even more for you to figure out. So
yeah, because I think if they're older gays, they're just whipping ass.
Yeah, exactly.
We had talked about why on The Walking Dead, specifically why in zombie movies, The Walking Dead, there aren't fucking leather daddies out there just whipping ass. Because let's face it, if a bunch of rotten flesh with teeth were coming at you, you would wear leather because they can't bite through it. So like the leather daddies would inherit the fucking earth. They'd be running around just sweating and whipping ass. You know, they got the tools, they got the armor. They'd just be whipping ass.
Membership, absolutely. Listen, they're fit. You know, like listen, they're ready to roll.
They're just whipping ass. I'm putting my money on them. We've talked about this on the show, but you're right. If somebody is just burgeoning into their sexuality and they don't have context because society has been wiped, finding another human being would, that's great. And that lends itself to YA. As yourself, Eric, like, you know, growing up and being queer, what was out there that resonated with you? And how early was that? Yeah.
Nothing.
I mean, it wasn't that there was nothing. It was that it was so hard to find.
Yeah.
I know, like there's a association called Lambda Literary that I'm a fellow with, and they have been, I think, since '87, they have been like spearheading queer voices. And the thing is, I didn't even know about that as a kid, and they had a young adult like category in their award ceremonies every year. They would have the young adult categories, but a lot of issues in like the 90s and early 2000s, it was always like issue books. So it would be just about like these queer kids having a terrible life, and that's it. And then slowly in the late 2000s, probably like mid-aughts maybe, they started doing more stuff where it's like, this is just a normal genre story, but it just happens that this character is queer. And so that's when I started kind of like hearing about those books, and I started seeking them out as an adult too, because I was like, I wish that I still had this when I was a kid. And so now it used to be where maybe a big publisher would publish 1 or 2 queer novels a year for kids. And now sometimes there's even like 10 a week all coming out. I know like with the most recent Pride Month, I know there was just probably 6 or 7 every single Tuesday, one right after the other. And my bank account took a hit, but it's okay. It's worth it.
Eric, where you?
Where you can. I get it.
Yeah, and in line with what Katie just said, like, where do you stand on that? Because obviously you don't necessarily want too much of a crowded field with your book coming out, or because it's hard to rise to the top, or like, but at the same time, like, this is important stuff, and every one of these books could be somebody's big book where it means a lot to them.
I'm all about it because like the publishing industry as a whole, and especially other authors, like we all support each other. So I'm all about as many as possible. Like maybe not like 30 every Tuesday, but I mean, I'm more than happy for there to be more queer authors writing books every other month that isn't Pride Month too. Because there's also, I think July is LGBT Wrath Month. We tried to figure out, I think January has to be Sloth.
Okay.
February has to be Lust Month.
Why y'all gotta? So the sins, like, what's the story
sins,
there?
yeah.
What's this? But is it counterproductive for the homophobes to see the queer stories aligning themselves with sins? Does that make sense?
No, that was just a joke.
Okay, I was about to say, Eric, I'm not very smart, so like you had me. See, this is why, Katie, you have to tell people when you're joking, because you get a Jonathan out there who's then like, wait, is this a thing in the publishing industry?
Yeah.
Because I was about to be like, this explains J.K. Rowling completely.
Well, listen, hers are a whole other situation.
Because I was in Target the other day looking for a fan. I think the fan is here in this room with me. It's doing
like a literal electric fan.
A literal fan. No,
I was like, you're just going through Target being like, anybody a Geekscape fan?
I have to purchase them at this point. No, I'm never going to find fans. Are you kidding me? But I saw this whole row full of Harry Potter stuff, and I was like, nope, can't get behind that just because this J.K. Rowling stuff is so
That's right.
just, I can't effing get behind this. And I was obviously disappointed with this Matt Damon stuff because I think Matt Damon's a good actor. I've met Matt Damon years ago when I first moved to LA. One of my starts was Matt Damon and Ben Affleck were the sponsors of like Project Greenlight. Remember that Project Greenlight show on HBO? And they were sponsoring this Coca-Cola award that I got, and I got to shoot a commercial and all this stuff. And they were super awesome and supportive. And then to hear this thing with Matt Damon saying that he was using the F word up until recently, I don't know.
Often enough around his children too, which is I thought was weird.
It's very weird. It's very weird, and it's unfortunate to the effect that, like, you know, if you tell somebody like, hey, this is offensive for so many reasons, and somebody doesn't continue to change that behavior, that's unfortunate and not to be celebrated.
It's like a guy's thing, right? Oh, you F. Oh, you F. So F.
Sure.
Guys, I'll tell you straight up, early years of Geekscape, this guy right here, Jonathan, used to act like that little jerk. And I remember Brian Walton, who was an early Geekscapist who would help me with the show, just said, hey, Jonathan, you can't do that. And I was like, oh, I'm just being No. The first words out of my mouth were the wrong words. That's the end. It's done. Yeah. It's done. Yeah. So I'm kind of horrified every time. Of all the stupid things I've done on this show, Geekscape, let me be earnest with you. With all the stupid things I've done over 15 years, that early on in the feed is this, and I've said I won't delete the episodes. I won't, it's like a Truman Show of this idiot. And that's the stuff that to me haunts me the most in the early years of Geekscape, was that Jonathan was just this little edgelord trying to get an audience, and that shit wasn't cool and was probably horrid for individuals to hear. And the reason I could go to Target and can't find a fan. Because that's anybody who's not Matt Kelly should have abandoned me years ago.
No, here's the thing is that, like, unless you learn from these mistakes, like, who are we to judge? Like, it's just,
I'll judge J.K. Rowling.
Yes, we can absolutely judge it. But the problem is that, like, unless we learn from it, what will we do to grow the story? And I'm curious, Erik, for you, what is your message for writers who are of, the LGBTQ community, who are scared to write their story, who are scared to put the thing that's out there that, like, no one's really talked about? And forgive me for putting this burden on you, but, like, what is it that brought you to be able to, like, put the words to the page?
I think it's just, you do it for yourself more than anything, because I always wanted that when I was a kid. I wanted books that, like, had queer characters in them, because I'll say, like, I thought that when I realized that I was gay, that it meant I didn't have a future at all. And that's what everybody who's been queer has been told for so long. And they don't have, like, there's no happy ending for us. We always are either the ones who are killed, or we're just miserable, or we get HIV and die. And that's it. And that's what every single story was. And it's just and that's what, when people get pissed off about, oh, well, why does everybody have to be different in all of these new things? It's like, because people don't see it enough. They have to be.
Like, at its base roots, we are just different people, and, like, to not have a voice for that is detrimental. And I thank you for that.
Hollywood publishes these reports on representation, and my next film has 2 Hispanic leads in it. I'm half Mexican myself, but I'm reading about Texas, my home state, which they do love, like, effing with the minorities. It's actually the most diverse state in the union, which was surprising to me, because obviously you have the Northeast, but they have so many minorities, and obviously the influx of immigrants. Yet it is completely not represented in some of the material coming out of that state and the educational stuff coming out of that state. And I just, like, can you imagine going through grade school and not seeing yourself represented? And let's just, you know what? I can try and be smart with all this shit all you want. It's just not that interesting otherwise. You know what I mean? Like, did y'all see the Carl Sagan clip where he was on the talk show? And he's like, I'll tell you what, if there are a bunch of aliens out there, they sure as fuck don't look like Luke Skywalker and a bunch of white people running around in Star Wars. He was talking about Star Wars, and he was saying, they don't look like a bunch of white people. It was fantastic.
I saw
it's
that
just not
recently.
Interesting. It's just not interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and this is why I'm so appreciative of your art and your work in all of this, Erik. Because thank you for bringing more stories to this, because we do need voices for the voiceless.
And I will say, if anybody is looking for an author to support who, after Harry Potter stuff, there's a book that came out last year, I think, or this year. It's called Amari and the Night Brothers. It's a really, really, really great book. I just finished it, and it's basically like if Men in Black was for every single, like, mythical creature in the world. So it's aliens, but it's also all of these mythical creatures and magicians and all that stuff. And it's this little girl who her older brother disappears one day, and this mysterious guy shows up with a suitcase that he gives to her, and she learns that he was part of the society, and he has nominated her in his disappearance. And so she goes and is trained to do, like, all this stuff with, like, almost like the FBI agents for this society, to kind of hold back the mythological world from our world.
What's it called again?
Amari and the Night Brothers.
Logan Pop is
really
on
good.
Facebook, and he says, "Oh, that sounds amazing, and I need to read it." And that sounds great.
And the sequel, I think, comes out this year or next year. I should have looked it up. Sorry, before I plugged it. But
listen, we have one book that we're concentrating on right now, and that comes out March 8th.
It's my publisher too, so I'm allowed to say all these other ones too.
March 8th, 2022. You can pick up this book, but pre-order it right now. You don't have to wait until March 8th to get it. Pre-order it. It's called All That's Left in the World. It sounds awesome, and I don't think that, Eric, that you have to be queer to enjoy this book. I think it's just a love story. And if you're into post-apocalyptic stuff, or if you were like, man, I really miss those plague days we just lived through. I miss 2021. I miss it. Or I miss 2020.
Outcome than Walking Dead.
I miss 2020. If you're like, oh man, I want to harken back to those little toilet paperless days, pre-order this book and you can relive them March 8th, 2022. All That's Left in the World. The comments are popping. There's a good new friend in here called David Wild. And he says, you know what? Part of being equal is being treated like equals. So yeah, I agree, David. Let's treat people as equals. Logan's back and he says, I'll make it a self-birthday present since it's the day before my birthday and there's no such thing as enough books, baby.
Happy birthday.
Truth.
It's a great birthday present.
And then David Will said, hey, speaking of Harry Potter, there's a movie from the 90s that's sort of like pre-Harry Potter called The Page Master. Baby, I know The Page Master. We know The Page Master.
Oh my gosh. I had to fast forward through the Jekyll and Hyde section.
That was my favorite part.
It freaked me out too much.
A friend of the show who's been on Geekscape named Scott Stockdike. He won an Oscar for Spider-Man 2. He's Sam Raimi's effects guy. Maybe he's working on Doctor Strange 2 right now. But Scott's first job in Hollywood, he told me, was on The Page Master. When he first got into special effects, his first job was on The Page Master. So I know Page Master, the Macaulay Culkin, Christopher Lloyd classic, very well. And if that's the kind of stuff you're into, David, y'all know Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman has the Sandman series coming up. Neil Gaiman has a series called The Books of Magic, which was a comic as well. And I think it almost got to the point of lawsuits when Harry Potter came out because it's a young boy magician in a magician school, and it was very similar to Harry Potter. And Books of Magic had been out since early 90s, at least in comic book form. So look up Books of Magic. It's got to be reprinted. I think it's a Vertigo, Warner Brothers, DC book. But see if they have that, David. You might enjoy the Books of Magic if you're into Harry Potter. And I'm all for alternatives to Harry Potter on this because, sorry, JK, you blew it. Page Master rules so hard, Logan Pop says, and I'm totally fine with this becoming a Page Master love fest because we started it as a Snake Eyes not so love fest.
Hate fest.
Eric, when did you decide to tell your story? And I got to tell you, creatively, the courage of becoming a creative and just putting stuff out there to ridicule, how synonymous is that with coming out? Because I imagine that's a huge step too. Did they come hand in hand, or were you like, you know what, I came out, fuck it, I'm going to follow my creative dream despite the odds being against it? You know what I mean? As everybody's like, oh, that's a really tough pursuit. Oh yeah, motherfucker, we only get one of these lives, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I honestly, I am going to get kind of emotional probably, but it was because of my mom. She was supportive of me always, ever since I was a kid. I have this one picture I posted on Instagram the other day. She gave me a book on writing in 1997 and basically said I was a writer and that I needed to focus, go after that. And she was also the one who said that she supported me going to film school. She was like, you should go to film school. And at the time I went, that's a thing? I can actually do that? It's not just like a Dawson's Creek plot point. So just the fact that she told me that, I felt like I could do it. And so I did. And it was a long road, clearly, because I graduated in 2009 and I had been trying ever since then pretty much to get published. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, J.K. Rowling, she got rejected 6 times. Fuck that. I got rejected like 250 sometimes. I lost count. I have an entire like folder in my Gmail that says rejections. And I put every single query that I sent out to agents, and I put every single rejection I got back from editors, which this book was even rejected by, I think, 18 people.
Now
so
we have
even
to buy
them, it was even them. They were the best rejections I've ever had, though, because I had never gotten this far before. But I mean, everybody gets rejected. It's just you have to keep trying it anyway, because if you
keep going.
do like it, you do it. You keep doing it. So, I mean, I was miserable sometimes, but it worked out so far. So
you hear that, Matt Kelly on the dating apps? You hear that, Matt Kelly on the dating apps? You just you get rejected. You got to keep swiping, baby. You just got to keep going. You know, maybe not. Maybe not with the Battle of the Bands, but with the dating thing, absolutely. Logan Pop is back, and he's just knocking him out of the park. Let's be honest. We should all be rejecting Rowling as an entire society now.
Absolutely, reject the TERFs. It's fine. Was there anyone that you enjoyed, like you had a sick obsession with, like, oh yeah, I got rejected from this place?
I think I don't think there was ever one where I was excited. I mean, I kind of was, because there's certain editors that, like, when my agent went out on submission, he sent me this whole list of who he was sending it to and what they were a part of. So, like, I've seen those books that they have edited on my bookshelves. So that I kind of was like, they're going to be reading my book. That's awesome. And so even when they rejected me, a lot of them were like, oh, I really love this, but it's just not right for me. And I don't think I can spearhead this. So I was totally cool with it. I'm like, all right, well, you still say you loved it.
Hey.
There was one person who, I read a few books that he edited, and he actually said that he couldn't he wished that I wrote just a regular, like, contemporary young adult novel that was just about kids doing whatever, because he loved my banter, but he couldn't, like, reconcile the funny banter with this super dark story of the end of the world.
What else are you going to do?
Well, that's on you, dude. So
that's kind of a real life thing.
Katie, you're the comedian here. Have we ever been funnier than we were in 2020 when it just looked like the end of humanity? It was just dark.
It's just darkness all around.
Remember the fucking...
I feel like there's a weird line in terms of, like, comedy and like strife. And when it comes to something that's so desolate that, like, you almost have to go to comedy in order to survive it, because it raises you up above a bar where it's just like, I could be depressed as hell about all of these circumstances, about all these things that are riding against me. And I think that's why comedy works, because you're railing against the odds that, like, you should be down in the dumps and doing this, like, depressing ass shit. And it's like, you know what? Fuck you, I'm not. And, like, that's what makes comedy so good. And I think that's why your banter sings. You know,
because the alternative is everybody just making sourdough for 2 weeks, as we learned during the pandemic, and that shit's not funny.
I was really upset too, because I was already really getting into sourdough in January, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, "Oh, I'm starting to make a sourdough starter," and then my sourdough starter hasn't risen at all. I'm struggling with it, and I'm like, "Well, everyone else is doing it now."
Have you been feeding your sourdough starter?
It's in my fridge, and I haven't fed it in probably 7 months.
Oh, okay. That Tamagotchi is
fine.
dead.
It'll be fine.
That Tamagotchi is dead, baby.
London,
I also have kombucha scobies in little jars.
Ooh.
It looks like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in my cupboard in the kitchen.
Did you ever have a Tamagotchi as a kid? Those little digital pets that you had to keep alive?
I didn't have a Tamagotchi because I could never find them, so I got a Digipet. It was a little monkey.
Oh, yeah.
That'll work.
It's like a knockoff Digimon in a way.
I love how now you have like 7 things you have to keep alive. You know, it's amazing. Logan says...
Training for motherhood, but never following through.
I'm a line cook, and I fucked sourdough up so bad. Katie just said training for motherhood, but like
Failing so hard.
I have a horrible. I was gonna say a horrible joke. I was gonna be like, "That's Tamagotchi." To have like the sourdough and the multiple things you have to keep alive at once as a gay person is probably like, you know what? Fuck it. I can raise something better than the straights can. We're doing this. We're going to keep it alive. Well, the one thing we're keeping alive, the one thing we're spearheading right now is this book, Geekscape. It sounds fantastic. Again, it's called All That's Left in the World. You can pre-order it right now if you're an Amazon fan. Or really what you got to be doing is going over to Erik's website. If you go to ericjbrown.com, you can read up on Erik. They got a much better description on the man than the publisher has. No offense to the publisher. Y'all are kicking some ass putting the books out. But again, that's Erik with a K, jbrown.com. Go visit, follow this man on the Twitter, on the Instagram, and all that stuff. And of course, more than anything, pre-order this book, All That's Left in the World, out March 8th, 2022. If it's not your thing, if you're not into young adult fiction, buy it for somebody who is,
Makes a great gift.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Erik, thank you for coming on Geekscape.
Thank you for having me. This is great, guys.
Thank you for humoring Matt in the horror movie night. As Erik discovered, we have many shows here at the Geekscape Network, and we want y'all to explore all of them. We talked to a new podcaster today about bringing his show over to the Geekscape Network. We're always adding shows. We're trying to just have a bunch of offerings for y'all. The average person, I think, listens to 5 podcasts a week. We're really glad that this is one that's hitting your ears right now. So we're going to keep pushing. Oh, I got to tell you, Matt, speaking of Matt, how awesome he is, go to Geekscape TV on YouTube and check out some of the videos Matt has been making. He and AJ Santini, for the 40th anniversary of MTV, dropped 3 videos. I watched the 10 strangest videos played in the first 24 hours of MTV today. I loved it. AJ's got a great voice. Matt and AJ wrote some really great stuff. It's a good video. I can't wait to see what else is coming from that YouTube channel, but subscribe to Geekscape TV for weekly videos and more over on that. And we're just slowly working on stuff like the Twitch channel, the YouTube, but Matt's only one man, and
you got to help him out, guys.
We got to help him out. And we have the Patreon going, and all that money goes to Matt too, to keep him from being on the streets, which don't see Erik helping him out. I mean, Erik, you've known him the longest, and
authors do not get paid that well. Buy the book.
Buy the book.
He knows his actual music. He was there for the genesis of the
he's
music.
I'm done investing in this kid. All right, Erik, thank you for joining us. Katie, anything you left to add? You can always follow Katie too at L Sassy Pants
on any platform, unless it's TikTok and L Sassy Pants with a Z.
What happened there, Katie?
Yeah, I got kicked off and cannot connect my Instagram to TikTok. It's fine. We're working on it. It's fine. L Sassy Pants with a Z on TikTok, with an S anywhere else.
Erik, thanks for coming on. Geekscape, thanks for listening. We love you. We'll be here next week. Oh, and I guess because the Suicide Squad comes out, that I guess you are going to listen to Ian Kerner and I do a deep dive on James Gunn's latest. So look forward to that. That'll probably be up around this weekend or next week. Tons of Geekscape coming for y'all, but you encourage us with your ears. Every time you subscribe, you just tell us for more. So thank you for that. Go out there and don't hate, create, folks. Okay? We will talk to y'all next week.
Seriously, Diane, was Colgate your secret to winning Best Smile back in high school?
Yep, and it still is. I even work overnight.
Huh?
Colgate's Optic White Overnight Whitening Pen works overnight. So after 1 week, I can show up confident and reunion ready.
And here I was bragging about my kids.
Colgate Optic White. Find it at all major retailers.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network. You're listening to the Geekscape Network.